Hey guys, Doug B here, your average axe-wielding hack. I am so excited. I've got something fresh for you guys, and I really think you're gonna like this too. Now, I know you've heard me talk about AustinBuddy in the past, reviewing his naked amps, tone pack, etc. Well, with us today, we have none other than Mr. AustinBuddy, all the way from Texas. He and I got together a couple of weeks ago, and he has graciously agreed to sit down to do a 20 questions for AustinBuddy type interview. So this is part one of that interview. Here we go. Okay guys, you got Doug B here, and in the studio we have with us none other than AustinBuddy. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm great, Doug. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, we have 20 questions for AustinBuddy, and like I told him, he can just riff and go as long as he wants to, give us as much information as possible. So, ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Number one, how'd you get started? What's your background? Like, were you playing in high school bands or stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I bet my story's a lot like a lot of your folks. I mean, but yeah, I started in high school and then in college and had bands, and I grew up in Louisiana, so I have that in my background. I played a lot in New Orleans when I was in college, and then I've just always kept it. You know, since I was 14 years old, I've been playing, and listening, and playing with gear, and dreaming of something like a Fractal before there was such a thing as a Fractal. Like, one day I'll have a box that could do everything, and I don't have to buy all this stuff, and it'll all be in there. So
I remember me saying that. Oh gosh, if we could just get this tone without having to blast my ears out, and now we got it.
Yeah, and it wasn't even about the ability to get a Marshall sound at room volume, which we can do now, which is pretty awesome. But it was, for me, it was about, I was into Hendrix and all the different effects, and it was like, how do I get all these effects in one place that all work and sound like how do you reproduce the album sound live? Which, even our heroes couldn't do that, right?
No, but, absolutely not.
But it's pretty cool because you can now. And, it's literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear in just this little, I mean, it's still a magic box to me. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, Cliff's gift to humanity. It's pretty awesome. So I did that. And then, I got into the Fractal world. I'll just add this piece in. I went and saw Dweezil Zappa play here in Austin. I think it was 2009, and he was getting all these wonderful, filthy Frank Zappa guitar tones, on stage, and I couldn't see an amp anywhere. And I was going, how was he doing this, And so I did a little investigation, learned that he was using a Fractal, and then he set up what he called a Dweezil Great Music Boot Camp. His first one, it was up in near Woodstock in New York. And he had Fractal come up to it, and I went to that, and that's how I got to meet Matt Picone. And from there, I became a member of the beta team. Now, I don't have like programmer experience; that's not my thing. But I have really good ears for vintage guitars and vintage sounds, and what sounds good and what doesn't. And so I was kind of this interesting mix in there because I wasn't really brought on because I had great technical things, but I could tell, is this right? Is this how do we get to this or that? And so I've been just helpful along the way. There are other people that carry much more of the load than I do. But it's really through Dweezil Zappa, who became a good friend after that, which I'm grateful for, and that I got to be with the Fractal people. And I've just been a cheerleader ever since. And it just keeps, as just keeps evolving and getting better and more accurate and more powerful and more features. And it's a remarkable company. And we could probably spend a bunch of time on that. But I just am really, and it's not a big company. I mean, it's literally a few people. But it's pretty amazing what they do, and it's been really quite a journey, and I'm quite grateful for it. And like you, I'm just trying to be a good member of the community and give back, and I like the democratization of tone that this thing does, right?
Yeah,
that's what I call it. It's the democratization of great tone. It's not like no one can get it, and that's like, yeah, you can get it. Now you have to be able to play like these people, right? If you want to sound like there's always that.
Fractal
right?
Modeler does not give us. There's not the talent button yet, but.
Yeah,
Cliff's probably working on that.
If they can do that, then he definitely can retire someday. If he can give us that. But that's
okay. Yeah, so that was number 2 question was how did you get involved with Fractal? So that's 1 and 2 then that we got here.
Knocked him out, yeah.
Okay. Now here's the question that I hear the most, and I'm sure you do too. If I already have the Live Gold tone pack, is there any reason for me to get the Naked Amps tone pack, and vice versa?
It's a really great question, and what I want to do is explain how each came to be and how they are similar and how they are different. And I get this question all the time too, so I'm grateful to have a chance to answer it. I'm going to give a little bit of history. I don't want to bore your viewers, but it's important because it'll explain why each is it. So the first thing I ever did was in 2017. I did the Naked Amps. This was for the Mark II and the Axe 8, 700 plus. And the idea was I just wanted to have for me a tool where I could have a couple of sounds of every amp channel that's modeled in it. I wanted to know what they should sound like. And I spent literally 9 months working on this. I was unemployed at the time, oddly enough. And I developed those, and I really got to know what the IR sounded like and which they sounded best with. And again, this is in the old units. And then from that, I developed something called the Dream Rigs. The Naked Amps, though, but was done with Atomic CLRs as studio monitors on either side of me. So I wasn't playing it live and back like a big amp in a room. I was mixing it like it was coming out of speakers as part of a mix, Doug. So that's what Naked Amps is and continues to be. I look at it as more of a studio tool because I'm making the sounds come out of my flat frequency monitors. Now I've got a pair of ATC, very expensive monitors here that people like Eddie Kramer and Elliot Shiner use. So Naked Amps really is me trying to get cool sounds that I hear on records coming out of my studio monitor, so I could use them for mixing and doing stuff in Logic and whatever. Whereas Dream Rigs, which later became Live Gold on the new platforms, after we went from Axe 8 and Mark II into the new Axe FX3, I went back and did Naked Amps again, 1400. I made it bigger because I could use 2 amp blocks now and 4 sounds per, so I could have literally 8 different sounds in a preset, as you've discovered. Mm-hmm. And so Naked Amps was still studio stuff, but a lot of people really wanted to have presets they could gig with that were like, amp in a room, and that's where Live Gold comes in. That's why I called it Live Gold. So to do that, and you may not be able to see them behind me, but I've got, sorry, I don't want that to cut out. I've got a CLR, one CLR Atomic and one Red Sound MF that are MF10. Those are new and I really like them. I like to blend them together because they each do different.
Oh, okay.
They each do a little different something thing. The Red Sound's got a kind of a fatter bottom, more like a guitar amp, but the CLRs have really the right kind of top end. And when you put them together, for me, it's like perfect for me. But that's what Live Gold is. It is me sitting here right where I am with everything in front of me, and I got a rack over here with all my Fractal gear in it. But those speakers are turned up to like 95 to 100 dB, depending on what I'm doing, while I'm dialing the sound. And so I know it sounds exactly like what I would want if I was playing on stage with that particular amp. Now, some amps sound better than others. That's just the way it is, right? Some amps, I can model them, and if someone loves that particular amp, great. But I'm not a fan of the Slash AF Appetite for Destruction model. Some people love that. To me, it's too crispy and harsh. But I think in the mix, that could sound great. But for live, I would pull out something else. But the idea is, what's the difference? Why should I buy one or the other? Well, if you're a gigging musician and you want to play live, and you want presets, then I would go with Live Gold. And Live Gold will work across all 3 platforms. So you can work on an FM3, an FM9, or a 3. It's got 4 sounds, 4 scenes that are built with the humbucker in mind. And then when you go to scenes 5 through 8, it actually adds a little filter boost that you can go to a single coil guitar for those same kind of scenes for most of the presets in it. And it covers every amp channel that's available. So if you kind of know what amps your heroes play that you're trying to reproduce, it's pretty easy to find the tone that you want. And it kind of goes from clean to low gain, mid gain, and then a lead sound for every channel where that makes sense. As you know, there's some metal amps where there is no clean channel. It's just, dirty. Whereas Naked Amps, and it'll use only 1 or 2 IRs. Naked Amps, you can't do it on an FM3 because it uses 2 amp blocks and 2 cab blocks. So Naked Amps you can do on an FM9, and that's kind of new, but it's out there. But so the difference is there's going to be a lot more bottom end in the Live Gold because I'm trying to get the live in the room sound, and it's going to have probably some more mids cutting on top because you need to cut through the, in a band situation to cut through the mix. Whereas the naked amps are just more of a, that sounds great coming out of my speakers. That sounds like a, an amp tone that I'd like. But if you can, so the next question is, can you use naked amps live and can you use live gold in recording? Yeah, but you'll just maybe need to make some adjustments. Like if you're using live gold in a recording thing, you're going to have to cut off probably bottom end because you don't want the amp to be thumping out of your speakers, right?
Right.
And if you're using naked amps, you might have to increase the bottom end a little bit. I know it's a long answer to a question, but it's a really good question. And, you get about, I think it's 1,200 sounds now in live gold, and you have more than 1,400 naked amps. So it's kind of overkill.
I think it's over 1,600 in naked amps.
Yeah, because I keep adding amps and amp channels. But the idea is that the naked amps is kind of the studio arsenal tonal. Like, for example, Trent Reznor of 9 Inch Nails, he uses naked amps and he's going to use them on his tour. So you can use these on tour. He's going to use some of the presets in it. Live gold, a guy like Justin Bieber's guitar player, this great guy, Jules, he's using some of this. So you can use them in both. But I would say this, if you play strats a lot or single coils a lot, naked amps has some much more specific dialed in for single tone, for strats and tellies kinds of sounds in it. And you may find that a little better if that's your jam, But if you're a humbucker guy and you're just looking for a couple of basic presets and you're going to build stuff out, Live Gold does the trick really, really great.
There we go.
It's got the gain range on them and all that. And then when you add the boosts and stuff, that's the other secret weapon. You take a low gain sound like Scene 2 on a Live Gold and then just throw the CS2 boost in, that foot switch boost. That changes that amp in a really good way. It wakes up the Marshalls in a really good way. So anyway, I'm rambling on, but it's a really great question. No, because I get this all the time and I don't want to have to type out, 14 paragraphs about it. Like I kind of just did here, right?
There it is. It's all typed out.
Yeah. But basically, so what should I buy? Well, if you're doing primarily studio work, go buy naked amps. If you primarily want to use this stuff for live, go buy Live Gold, like their label. But don't think you can't use one for the other. You're just going to have to take into account the purpose for which they were developed.
Sure. There we go. Okay. Let's see here. Number 4. Okay, let's say I was one of those guys who bought an FM3 a couple of years ago, and I bought, a couple of year tone packs. Well, now it's time to graduate up to the FX3. And do I need to buy those tone packs again?
It's a great question. If you bought an FM3 tone pack, you already get access to the FM9 and the AXFX3 versions. In the zip file that you download, it will have a separate folder for FM3, FM9, AXFX3. So even though you went on my website and you said, I have an FM3 and I'm buying this version of it, go look in that zip file and you will see an FM9 and an AXFX3 folder. So because it made no sense to charge people differently. It's the same exact preset across 3 platforms, so you might as well get them all. I just didn't think there was.
Sure.
I didn't think it was right to try and do them separately. So when I update, I try to update all of them, across all platforms. So there's only a few things. Like I said, naked amps you cannot get for the FM3 because there's not enough CPU power. You can't do 2 amp blocks and 2 cab blocks, and that's essential.
So there you have it, guys. Part 1 of my interview with AustinBuddy. Man, that guy is just a walking treasure trove of guitar and amp knowledge. I am so glad that he was able to transfer that to his tone packs. So, this was part 1 of that interview. Next week we will have part 2, and guys, we are just getting started. Now, you do not want to miss that, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. All right, guys, I will be talking with you again soon.